What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Getting Technical, episode 28. We are joined by Joe. We got Sam here as well. No Zach this week. You know, he's got some work to do. Got some editing, so he's sitting this one out. He's producing. But let's jump right into it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. I mean, Joe, Sam, two of the biggest Jets fans I know. So I'm going to let you guys take this one away.
I started yesterday by saying it was the best day of my life once I found those news out. But no, it's something I've been very excited about, to have a quarterback I don't have to worry about throwing 4 interceptions during a game, 0 touchdowns, or doing anything like that. We've been through, I forget the number, but since, even if you just go back to Sanchez, it's been like 15 starting quarterbacks, and it's been nothing but misery for us. So I'm going to take this moment and this next year or two, whatever we get out of them, to really enjoy and soak it in that we actually have a competent quarterback.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it has been a really long time, and it's actually really relieving to not have to go into the draft focusing on are we taking a quarterback? Are we going to trade back? What are we going to do? I mean, that whole kind of process is just so debilitating. You see it happen when we took Zach, when we took Geno. Even when Sanchez was here. But like you said, Aaron Rodgers being here, you know that you're not going to have somebody who's going to throw 4 picks. You know you're going to have at least a touchdown. Him and Garrett Wilson playing together should be really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, and if we've experienced the butt fumble, Geno breaking his jaw, that whole second Fitz year was a mess.
Yeah, the six picks against the Chiefs.
Darnold with mono.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson banging moms and doing absolutely nothing. So this is going to be a nice change of pace.
Darnold seeing ghosts.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, my God. It's really crazy because, it's just every draft, we get our hopes up. We draft this quarterback, and then they just suck. They're just always terrible. And then you kind of get a glimmers of hope with, Zach had a few good games. Darnold had a little bit more to show, and it was we're all excited. We had the Sam Darnold meme with the flag and the USA flag in the background. And then it just kind of, it just all fell apart. And it's just nice this year that, outside of just having a good quarterback, the team around them is actually filled with, great football players. And they're young as well. So he's that older veteran, but then outside of him, the team's just got a lot of really great young players.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the next oldest person, obviously outside of Thomas Morstead, who we just brought in, it's probably C.J. Mosley. It's probably the next oldest person on the team.
Yeah, unless Dwayne Brown sticks it out.
Right, I mean,
he'd be the only one.
Right, and he's still a potential cut depending on how they restructure the contract and everything.
Yeah, no, but I can't say this enough for all the slings and arrows, us Jets fans, before we start talking into other stuff or whatnot, but at least for me, being a diehard Jets fan, like we were talking about before we started filming, I've been to 40 games in my life. I've done a bunch of road trips, blah, blah, blah. It's and for all the shit I've taken, whether it's walk, because we haven't made the playoffs since 2010. I was 12, 13 years old during that season, and the slings and arrows you'd take in school. You were in a Jets sweatshirt going to pick up an egg sandwich or something. They're like, oh man, the Jets suck or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. And so all this kind of years, and then we got Giants fans chirping us as well throughout the entire process. So this is gonna be awesome. I was watching Schefter before. It could be he was saying it could be 5-6 primetime games, maybe a Thanksgiving game. We play at Dallas, so this is gonna be something we've really never experienced before. Because we were talking about before, Rodgers is. He's just he's in a different realm of even celebrity. But then when you get to quarterback, I think it's fair to say he's, if not top 5, a top 10 quarterback of all time. Maybe you even go as far as NFL player, top 15, top 20, whatever it may be, because his talent is something we may have never seen before. And now we started seeing Mahomes, and he kind of has that it factor too. So it doesn't have the rings and whatnot that a Brady has or whatnot, but as far as just pure talent and throwing the football, you see what the MVPs and whatnot. It's something. Hopefully, we get a good end of his career, and maybe his down year last year was a little bit of an outlier.
I think a good thing about it is he's obviously back paired with Nathaniel Hackett, and he's going to have a pure number 1 wide receiver like he didn't have last year. Because obviously, I want to go back and check, but at one point the Packers were leading the league in drops, and that was a huge reason why Aaron Rodgers kind of didn't have the season that he had. Took a little while for Christian Watson to get his feet underneath him after the injury. Romeo Dobbs wasn't the same. And I think, honestly, it's a good situation with the weapons that we have. Obviously, you hope Breece Hall comes back healthy the way he looked towards the beginning of the season. I hope Michael Carter is the biggest one for me. I want him to come back and have a bounce back year because he just did not look like how he looked in his rookie year.
Did you see the tweet today by Breece? Or was it was like either today or yesterday? He's like, my knees are already feeling better. Something
Yeah,
like
that was right after it released, all the information. I mean, a bunch of Jets players were tweeting. Lazard tweeted out. Obviously, Becton did. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Sauce, they all were kind of applauding the move and getting hyped about it. But you saw a lot of back and forth between Jets Twitter and Packers Twitter arguing about who got fleeced, who didn't. And
I was definitely a part of that.
yeah, I know, me too. But to be honest, I don't think there was a fleece either way. I think my dad's biggest thing when I was talking to him about it, he's annoyed at the fact that we moved back from 13 to 15, which I don't think is much of a big deal because I think the option that we're looking at to draft in this year is probably a tackle. There's so many tackles available, and the fact that all 4 quarterbacks are being considered for top 5 picks, not even just top 10, I think will help push everything down. Obviously, Jalen Carter and Will Anderson are still available. So I'm not too worried about the availability of tackles between 10 to 15. There should be plenty of people for us to pick.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this conversation, which I don't think we've hit on completely yet, but it's going to start to happen now that the trade's official, and what is the expectation? Because you're going 2 out of the last 3. Granted, he went 2 straight years with MVP, then had a little bit of a down year, but you hinted at it while you were talking. Is that more of a product of he suffered a broken thumb, I think, week 5, week 6 last year against the Giants, and then as well he had 3 rookie wide receivers I think he was throwing to, and Alan Lazard, but the 3 rookie wide receivers, none of them were even drafted in the first round. I know Christian Watson was high second round, and I was actually pretty high on him coming out of college if we didn't go the Garrett Wilson route and whatnot and waited till round 2. But what do you guys think as far as expectations? Like, I know the win-losses we're expecting big things just because the roster's well-rounded out, but I mean, for Rodgers specifically, I mean, do you guys err more on, like, he's going to be just a solid quarterback like he was last year and decent, or is he going to be like that MVP?
I think he puts up top 10 numbers. I think it's definitely possible. I mean, I think the biggest thing, like I said before, is Nathaniel Hackett being his offensive coordinator again. He's going to be in a comfortable situation. They're going to be able to pass the ball more and give Breece Hall kind of a little more time. He says his knee is healthy, but obviously it takes some time to get back from an ACL, so he'll have some time to kind of really get his feet up underneath him. But as a real expectation, 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 10 picks, I'd be cool with that. That'd be the greatest season for a Jets quarterback ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder. Like,
Absolutely.
even though he re-signed with Green Bay, like over the past few years, he won the MVPs, but he hasn't really been happy with them. They drafted Jordan Love in the first round. They hadn't drafted like an offensive weapon for him in like how many years in the first round, whatever that stat was.
Ever, I think. I
But
don't think
yeah,
they
and
did
it's
that.
like, last year was a little bit weird. He was dealing with that injury. They had this young team, and we know like older quarterbacks like him, like Brady, they don't like throwing to young guys. They want guys who are proven, who they can trust. And he pretty much forced his way to New York. I mean, he went on the Pat McAfee show. He said he wanted to be a New York Jet. The trade, I mean, he didn't have to do that. So I just feel like he kind of just has a lot to prove, and he's just kind of like, fuck you, Green Bay. Like, it didn't seem like it really ended well there. As much as he kind of played it off, like, I love playing there, all this stuff, it seems like he definitely is not done, and he wants to prove something to all of them.
Yeah, and I mean, just us speaking now, he has his intro press conference tomorrow, so we'll kind of look like what the contract looks like tomorrow. We really can't speak on that, but from what you hear from the Jets reporters and whatnot is, yeah, we gave up a lot, but I think the exact quote was like, look at what the contract's going to be like when it comes out. Like, apparently it's very team friendly, and then you hear Schefter talk about, he plans on being in all the voluntary workouts, stuff he didn't, like you said, he didn't do with the Packers and whatnot. So he could be going at this thing 2-3 years. He realizes this is probably going to be the best defense he ever played with. I think we rated out top 5 in almost every category for a defense except takeaways. But the thing with our defense too is look how much they were on the field. all the 3 and outs. I think we had to
Yeah,
be top of the league in 3 and outs.
Zach Wilson was giving those offenses a lot of extra possessions.
Yep, that too. I mean, we were losing the turnover battle damn near every game, especially once we started losing those last 6 games and whatnot. So think about it's not even just Rodgers. Like, obviously, you insert the quarterback, he's going to play much better than our quarterbacks, but I think everybody's going to feel that effects. Garrett Wilson's going to be a crazy fantasy pickup. Just the volume of targets, if he stays healthy, I can't imagine what that's going to look like. The defense, they're going to be well-rested playing with a lead, a lot more getting after the quarterback and takeaways. So, no, as a Jets fan, like I mentioned earlier, but, like, we've taken so much shit for so many years, so now get back at these Patriots fans, Dolphins fans, Bills fans, hopefully. I mean, I'm not putting a limit on this team. They're not going to be the favorite, but they're going to be in the conversation, and there's no reason why we can't. I mean, you know how football playoffs work. It's one game.
Yeah.
Get hot at the right time.
Any
we can
given
make something
Sunday,
happen.
you just kind of want to be in the mix, right?
Absolutely.
'Cause you never know. Like, there could be. Don't want to wish an injury on anyone, but like anything can happen. If you're watching the NBA playoffs right now, like Giannis is hurt, Tyler Herro just got hurt, Ja Morant like fucked up his hand,
Fox fucked up his hand.
Fox broke his index finger on a shooting hand. Like, all these things happen. You just want to be in the mix, because if you're in the mix, then anything can happen in the postseason, and then you can go on one of those runs. But as far as like if the Jets gave up too much, to me it's like I don't even think that conversation even makes sense, because like we know, since we have not had a good quarterback in like our entire lives, that like that's the only position that really matters in football. If you have a good quarterback, you can figure it out. You can find a way to be a competitive team. You can find a way to win. But it's like, bro, like it's Aaron Rodgers. Like we moved back 2 picks as a what? It's a conditional?
Conditional second.
Conditional second. And it's like,
That's
Bro,
probably
like-
going to be a first unless he stays.
like, bro, like if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, like if he's 80% of the Aaron Rodgers that we all know, like it's such an upgrade to everything we've been dealing with that it's like, bro, like you make the trade 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, for what the compensation was, like you said, we swapped picks from 13 to 15. We had the second round pick this year, but we obviously got one back with the Cleveland trade for Elijah Moore. And I mean, I would assume, I mean, knock on wood, that it's a lock that he plays and that 65% automatically becomes a first round pick. But that pick's going to be what? Hopefully towards the end of the round, high 20s, if God willing, 32nd overall, and we won't even have to worry about it. And then at some point, you got to hope that he obviously stays for the second year, because the biggest thing for me was that the conditions of the pick was predicated on us making the playoffs, making a deep run, AFC Championship game, or him committing to a second year. That's what I wanted the conditions to be. And once I saw that it was going to be just 65% games played, that to me made it seem like, all right, he spoke with the Jets front office. He's open to playing more than just 1 year. He's giving them that assurance that, all right, I'll be here. You can make the trade. Don't worry about it. And that was really eye-opening for me and just showed. And then on top of him saying, all right, I'm coming to voluntary workouts. I'm going to make sure I'm there for, obviously, all the young players to learn the new playbook and get ready and get into a rhythm with me. And having Alan Lazard there will help them. I mean, they'll be able to just kind of break everything down for them to start.
Yeah, and it's going to be easy for a lot of people, and I'm already seeing it already. It's like just the Jets, no matter what, everything will go wrong. Like, obviously, this was the bad move. We overpaid or whatnot. But, I mean, I'm tired of sitting on my hands and we draft a quarterback high and pray for 2-3 years that he's good. Hasn't worked out, obviously, for us, and we've done it 3 or 4 times now over the last 10, 15 years. And, I'm just tired of waiting, and we have the roster to do it now. Joe Douglas, he's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing. Obviously, no GM's perfect. We obviously screw up the second overall pick, but I think aside from that, you'd grade him out pretty well. Obviously, that's a big piece of it, but
Yeah, the first year isn't looking great. I mean, outside of Becton,
yeah. But I mean,
he didn't have much time to prepare for it either, because we brought him in pretty late.
People forget, and we'll get into the NFL draft because that's coming up in a couple of days. But it's very like 2-3 good players in a draft is normally a pretty good draft for most NFL teams.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jets obviously hit a home run last year with 4 studs right at the top. But in general, it's like the Wilson. They're paying for the Wilson miss. If you really look at the trade, you gave up the second overall pick basically for Rodgers because Wilson pans out. You're really not worrying about Rodgers, So
Right.
you do have to view it like that. But at the same time, it's like if he stays 2 years, I think it's already a good trade. I think is where it gets like you gave up too much as if he only stays 1 year. But like I said, I don't think they're flying into this blind. They probably got some sort of assurance he's going to stay 2-3 years.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't hit that 65%, you assume things went bad, and you probably want to move on from him at that point. So,
Right. I mean, unless you go 11-0 and you already clinch a playoff spot and you just say, fuck it, sit.
yeah.
And the good thing about it is obviously he was Zach Wilson's idol and being able to. He's Zach
When you
Wilson's
first
idol.
said
Learning
that,
from
I
him
didn't
is
even
huge.
process. I was just like, what the?
Yeah, but
Imagine they did something. They would,
yeah, that would be really nuts. But I think another big thing for them is, like I said, if he's able to, Zach Wilson is actually able to learn from him and sit down and pay attention. They say Jordan Love has really developed underneath Rodgers, and he's looking good and he's prepared. I mean, if it works out, I think Zach Wilson, I mean, he's not going to have a market. The Jets aren't picking up his fifth-year option. He's going to have to sign for something. And I think out of any team, the Jets will probably be like, hey, look, we'll give you $8 million to be a one-year backup. Rodgers is going to retire after this year. Then you could step back in and prove it to us that you could be the guy, and we'll figure it out from there and give you an extension down the road.
Yeah, what you're saying, it can't hurt. I'm not banking on it, to be honest.
Yeah, like, I'm like 98% out on Zach Wilson. The 2% is me giving out hope that Rodgers is able to fix him.
Yeah, but like I said, it can't hurt, you know.
Right.
no, I mean, it's honestly for him like it really is best case scenario.
Yeah.
Like an older vet who like has already shown that Aaron Rodgers has already shown he likes Zach Wilson, at least as a person.
Right.
He thinks he's a talented football player, although I mean,
Yeah,
it's hard to believe that after watching him play football. But
Yeah.
it's best case scenario if he can learn under Aaron Rodgers and become a decent quarterback when Rodgers is done. Like that would be great.
Yeah, I'm just pumped I don't have to see number 2 on the field.
He
This
sucks.
next year.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of those Jets fans that gets very emotional, and rational thoughts come second with that. So I was very much on the Zach Wilson train and whatnot for a while, but last year was a different type of bad that I haven't seen before. I think it was worse than Darnold. I
Much
think it's the
worse.
worst we've ever seen. So
Yeah.
no, I'm looking forward to brighter days, with Rodgers. So I'm pumped about it.
I think the biggest thing between how bad Darnold was and how bad Zach was is that we actually felt like Zach had the weapons and the coaching around him to actually be good, whereas Darnold was thrown to basically nobody's, and Adam Gase was his head coach.
Yeah,
I think that was the biggest thing, and obviously I think the offensive line this year played better than any offensive line Sam had. I just think Zach had more to work with, and he just still dropped the fucking ball.
Yeah, no, I feel like with the Jets, like Sam Darnold was, for the most part, he was really set up to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't say the same with Zach Wilson. Like
100%.
he had a great coach, he had weapons, a great defense, and he just couldn't put it together. Maybe he was just too young, and he'll figure it out, but it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, let's get into Aaron Rodgers. Would you rather? So the first quarterback I got is Justin Herbert.
I think there's still time to be seen with Justin Herbert. I mean, he finally made the playoffs his first year, and he blew a giant lead to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think I'd take Aaron Rodgers.
And I think the first part of this, before we really get into like more names, at least for me, it's what I brought up before is like, if you go off last year, you're probably saying Herbert, correct? Just based off what we saw last year.
Yeah, performance.
Numbers wise, yeah.
But accounting for, there's going to be a better supporting cast around him, offensive weapons wise, better defense, so that'll be easier. One, better run game, I believe, as long as Brees is healthy doing his thing. And then the other thing too is like he dealt with a broken thumb. I think he's going to be more of that MVP quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to win MVP, but I think he's going to be closer to that than what he was last year.
Right.
So with that, I'm probably going to roll with. I'll go Rodgers, but I think the thing with Herbert too, and I think, which is exciting for him, he has Kellen Moore now, which I think is going to help him a bunch. I'm high on the Chargers going into next year, so I do think Herbert's going to be. It's a tough one, but I'm going Rodgers just off of what we've seen so far.
Although after all the news about Austin Eckler probably wanting out, that's going to be tough for them to switch up.
Yeah. If we're just going for next year, I would lean Aaron Rodgers. Next quarterback, Jalen Hurts.
I'd take Jalen Hurts. I just think the upside is just so massive with him, especially with him being able to run the ball and coming off the year he did. I would probably go with him if I was building a team. But who do I think will have the better year next year? I'd probably go Rodgers, just because I think their team level of talent around them is kind of similar. But the Jets are going to be playing a fourth place schedule compared to what the Eagles are going to be playing.
Yeah.
So Rodgers' numbers and production will probably be better than Jalen's.
Yeah, it's cool. And then I think just going back to Herbert too, and then now it hurts. The Jets play both those teams this year, so and they also play like the Chiefs with Mahomes and whatnot, and
Obviously,
they got some good matchups. Who knows what Deshaun Watson's going to be with Cleveland? They play Cleveland, so be some good quarterback matchups. But yeah, going off that, Hurts has the easier job for sure. That roster's loaded, and I know they lost some guys on defense, but they're just so good. But
and
like,
Miles Sanders.
how I view it is if Rodgers is on the Eagles, they're better than Hurts on the Eagles, so that's why I'm going to go with Rodgers. But Hurts this last year he had an easy job for sure, but I did not expect that in a million years what he did.
Yeah, I would go with Jalen Hurts. I just think he's special. I think what he can do running the football, and I think he's an underrated passer, and that team is just loaded. So I would go with him. Next quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
Rodgers.
I know you like Lamar.
Oh, I love Lamar.
You guys
too.
both. I mean, you guys wanted him on the Jets.
Yeah,
but-
I wanted him on the Jets before Rodgers, just because of the youth aspect, and we haven't seen what he's able to do with an actual talented wide receiver group around him. So, I mean, the excitement there was obviously huge, but I think Rodgers is still going to be better than him next year.
I'm going to stick to my word and go Lamar because through the whole process with the Jets looking for a quarterback, I ranked kind of like who I'd want. I put Lamar 1A, Rodgers 1B, so I'm going to stick to that. And the reason I would probably ultimately pick Rodgers for this 1 year in the sense that like he's less injury prone. I think I can trust him more, but if they're healthy, man, Lamar with this offense, I think just the personnel they have, the guards they got are good. I'm expecting a bounce back from Lakin.
Yeah, for sure.
And Brees Hall, obviously, if he's healthy. Lamar would have been special with this offense. It would have been a ton of speed on the field and a lot of easy completions in this offense with Garrett and Lazard and whatnot. So I'm going to go with Lamar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't have had to get rid of Elijah.
Yeah.
I would go Aaron Rodgers. I like Lamar, and I think that he really hasn't had that much talent around him. But as just a pure quarterback, I don't know. I just personally lean Aaron Rodgers. Let's see. Next, I have T-Law.
T-Law, I mean, I think he could be special. I really think he can. I think that the team around him isn't there yet, completely. So I'd still take, like I said before with Jalen, I'd take Rodgers for this year. But if I was building a team for the future and I was signing him to a 5-year deal, if I had both of them on a 5-year deal, I'd probably go T-Law.
Absolutely. And I think with this conversation, you have to do next year because we all know the answer. If you're building for the future, you're not taking the 39-year-old quarterback.
Exactly.
So, but I would go Rodgers for sure because not that I think Trevor Lawrence is overrated. I think he's going to be very good. But I was having a good conversation earlier today about Trevor Lawrence. It's like it feels a little rushed as far as what he's done. Like, granted, he had probably 60% of his year. He really turned it on that second half, but if you remember the first few games, he wasn't that great.
Yeah,
and
the Dallas game is what turned it around.
Yeah, and so I do believe he's going to be good, but it does feel rushed. So I'm going to go with he's got a little more to prove for me before I start doing that. So I'm going to go with our boy Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I would go Rodgers as well. I mean, I feel like T-Law is awesome, and he has like so many like just like traits that like, bro, like he's gonna be special. But really, like he really had like half a good season. Like he was bad coaching and all that stuff. He sucked his first year. He was off to a sketchy start, and then he really turned around, became one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. But I'm still gonna lean Rodgers. And then last, would you rather, is Josh Allen. That's my guy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably take Josh. I think, although his play dropped off so much,
He was
when
hurt.
Dable
Like
left.
that was
he
the
was
thing.
hurt,
Like,
and
he,
Dable
like,
left is what I was going to mention.
Oh yeah,
That
but,
was
like,
a
he
huge-
was
that
still
was a huge
balling
drop
out,
for him.
and then he got hurt, and then he got injured in the Jets game, and then kind of really was never the same after that.
Yeah.
And people who know me, I'm not a big Josh Allen guy.
Why?
Well, he plays
Well, he plays
it's
for
a
the
little
Bills.
bit too much of a Well, it's that too. Trust me, I have a little bit of bias, but it's more of with him. It's a lot of hero ball, and you see that a lot when the experts are talking about it. It's like, and granted, yes, he's very, very talented. It's a tough decision for me. I'm going Rodgers because I think he's too turnover prone, and I think a big part of his success, and it's going to show again this year because I'm expecting a little drop off from the Bills. I really am, but that's a different conversation. But Dable leaving was, it's hard to quantify. I mean, look what he did for Daniel Jones, and like people knew he was that guy behind the Buffalo and what they were doing offensively. And now you got the Diggs controversy too, which is a little funny. You don't know how that's going to play out, but it's definitely not good vibes there, whatnot. So I'm going to go with Rodgers on that one.
Yeah, but the talks of them bringing in D-Hop after you heard about Von Miller going out, I mean that would be wild for them to bring him in.
Bring it on. That's all I got to say to that.
Yeah, I love Josh Allen, but I don't know. The vibes they're off in Buffalo right now.
They definitely are.
The vibes are off, and I don't know. The Diggs thing is really weird to me. Like he's just no-showed in like multiple playoff games now, and he really hasn't like taken accountability for it. I feel like he's just been kind of complaining about it. But as far as like talent and stuff, like I don't know. Like I have to go Josh Allen just because we've seen what he can do. Like his arm strength, everything. Like I still think that Rodgers is like getting up there in age, obviously. So it's like because of like he has that youth edge and his like he's just so good running the football, all that stuff. I'm gonna go with Josh Allen, but it's definitely close.
I got a take on it. As a Jets fan, we talked a bunch about the Jets before. I'll be honest, and I hate saying this. I'm more worried about the Dolphins than the Bills this coming year. I think that coach really has something going with Miami, although I hate everything about them and what they do. Miami is just that one team. The Patriots, we dealt with all the crap and whatnot, the losing and whatnot, but Miami's been that just team I just effing hate.
Yeah.
I just don't know about their core. Like, you think Tua's going to even be able to play a whole season?
No, but they got so much talent, and they're pretty deep, I think.
Who's their backup
they
quarterback?
got Mike White.
Is it Mike?
Fangio,
Oh, shit, is it Mike?
new DC down there. He's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're loaded with talent.
So the Bills, I think, are top heavy talent wise. They get an injury or two like they did last year.
Yeah, they got like
I think they go down a peg real quick.
Yeah, they got like 7 or 8 top guys. Then after that, it's a bunch of okay players.
Yeah. Do you want to do top 5, top 10 AFC quarterbacks? I know you said top 10 just gets like a little bit more confusing. But if you guys want to do top 10, I'm
maybe
down.
like a top 7.
I'm down for 7.
It's just
I think the top 7.
I think we all got the same number 1 before we even started. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, I mean, if anybody has any other one, they should not be watching football. They should really.
It depends. I mean,
nobody's putting Burrow over Mahomes.
Well, no, obviously it's a consensus number 1, but
That's what I was
I think
saying.
everything else is up for debate.
No, I know. I was saying number 1 specifically.
And I think we should preface this conversation too, like we did before, is what they're going to be next year.
Yeah,
with the team around him too, because, like I said, Rodgers' age, as far as building a team, it excludes him from any of those conversations.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So just going into next year,
start with 10 or 7. Like go backwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Number 7, talent-wise, I would probably go Deshaun. I'd probably go Deshaun 7, T-Law 6. Lamar 5, Herbert 4, Allen 3, Rodgers. Oh wait, yeah,
You're missing one.
I am missing one. Yeah, it's tough to go backwards because I don't want to miss anybody.
I think you slide Deshaun out of that.
Yeah, Deshaun's out of it. So yeah, no, it's T-Law, Herbert, Lamar, Allen, Rodgers, Burrow, Mahomes.
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback off him, I'll probably go 1 through 7 just to, I think I would make the same mistake, loop him in. But Mahomes, I'm going 1. I don't think he even needs an argument off of that. It's until someone takes him down. Burrow took him down once, but Mahomes got him back last year. So I'm going Mahomes 1, Burrow 2, because I think he's that special. Like, if I was really starting it, especially Jets specifically, if I'm starting a team, it's Mahomes and Burrow, but I think Burrow might. Me personally, I love Burrow just a tiny bit more, but he's got to prove it in a sense before we can really do that.
Yeah.
I'm going Rodgers 3. I like Josh Allen and Lamar are probably the ones sitting there, But I'm big on Herbert, like I said, this coming year. I think the new OC is really going to do wonders for him. So I'm going Rodgers 3. I'm going to go Lamar 4. But that's if he's on the Ravens. I'll say that. But we don't know how that's going to go. Herbert 5. I'm big on Herbert this year. I think Chargers are going to have a good year. And then Josh Allen 6, which is probably where I'll get some shit from that. But I'm just not a big believer. And probably Trevor Lawrence 7. Yeah. I think Trevor Lawrence can overtake that, to be honest. I'm not big on Josh Allen.
I mean, at least you're consistent.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was Dable. I really do, and that's my belief, and that's my reasoning behind it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, my top 10 AFC quarterbacks, at 7, I would go Herbert. 6, T-Law. 5, Lamar Jackson. 4, Aaron Rodgers. And then I'd probably keep that same top 3 that's kind of been consensus. I'd probably go Josh Allen 3, Joe Burrow 2, Mahomes 1. And with Mahomes, like what you were saying, bro, he really might be the best quarterback of all time. As far as talent goes, I mean, you could probably really already make that case. But I don't know, man. He's just so fucking
There's
good.
an aspect to him, too, when you're watching football that's just so special because he's doing stuff that's so not coached. It's probably, told against, hey, do not do this, when you're a quarterback.
Yeah.
But he gets away with it just because the one thing you notice with him, too, is he's so mentally advanced as well. And I think that's just such a huge part of his game as well. And then you got Andy Reid, too. That's a juggernaut. But I'm hoping the Jets can compete with him this year.
Yeah. But it's just fun. It's just crazy because, everyone thought, once they traded Tyreek Hill and it was just him and Travis kind of, they really were not strong at running back. I mean, Pacheco's been awesome for them. But a lot of people, just didn't think they'd even really be, even a contender. And then he just goes and he's gotten to the point where it's if you give him 45 seconds and a timeout, you're like, fuck, we're screwed. They're going to score. He's just the only other guy I can think of, at least as a Jets fan, where I'm it's not over until time has fully expired, is Brady.
Yeah.
But it's with him, bro. It's if the Jets and the Chiefs find a way to match up in the playoffs this year, the Jets are up by 3, and there's 25 seconds left, no timeouts, and they got to go 80 yards. I'm still fuck. I'm not celebrating until this game is over.
Absolutely.
This dude is that good.
And I think that's the exciting thing for us Jets fans is ideally you want Rodgers to be just as good. He's probably not going to be, but at the same time, I don't think they're seeing a defense like ours. Those Buffalo defenses the last couple of years were very good, don't get me wrong, but I think there's, like you said, the weapons. It's we're able to match up Sauce on Kelsey. Not many other teams have a guy like that they can just go and match up with them and you'll say, oh, why would he be covering a tight end? When we matched up with the Ravens week 1 last year, if you remember, Sauce's first career game, he locked up Mark Andrews, And
I remember him deflecting that pass towards the
that's
the
an
right
elite
pylon.
weapon like we had with Revis. It's you pick that guy out if he's that special on that team and very singular to what they do and just lock him down. It's
He's tough.
Which
And
is-
now they're
which is-
boys. He's boys with Travis.
Yeah.
And Jason.
they all went to the same college.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah, a big thing about it though is it goes against everything that basically Salah's whole philosophy on that defense. Having one corner follow somebody around, it goes against the philosophy. But I think that's the beauty of it because that now he can do anything he wants with that defense now.
Yeah, and I think you saw in that game because, like you said, most games he's not following because DJ Reed was just as good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get a matchup like that where a team's lacking wide receiver talent, like the Ravens were last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, unless the Chiefs trade for D-Hop, which is another conversation, I think that's a great landing spot for him.
Right.
They got Kelsey, and then their wide receivers are okay. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he's okay. Sky Moore, they're okay, and I'm sure they'll draft or maybe trade for somebody. But that's a team where you can do that.
Right.
But when you got the Bengals, it's the opposite. It's you need 2 guys no matter what, so might as well stick them on each side.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
You want to go into Jet schedule?
And we're back. We got Nick with us now too.
we phoned a friend.
We found a friend. We were gonna do 2 episodes, but because it's a sports podcast, it just didn't even make sense with everything we say on Friday would be irrelevant.
Busy sports week too.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I think you wanted to talk about the Jets schedule.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to get into it and get everybody's idea about what they think the the record might be. So obviously we don't know who's going first, but we'll just go through the home opponents. One matchup is the Commanders. I think
I got to win.
Yeah, I think we're all consensus that they're gonna win that game. Then the Eagles.
Loss.
Really, you think that quick loss?
I'm trying to be realistic here. I'm not going to chalk everything up for a win.
Okay.
I'm gonna go loss and also a fun fact about it: Jets have beaten every team in the NFL
Except for the
the Eagles all time.
That's why.
We've never beat the Eagles.
No, we've
Ever.
never beat the Eagles. That's why I said.
Christ.
We looked cooked last year against the run. It was
Yeah.
terrible last year.
I mean, bro, they're different. Especially, bro, we haven't even talked about it, but they might get there. Like, there's rumors about Derrick Henry going to the Eagles.
Which I don't buy. I thought Eckler.
It's
would
like
be a
probably
good fit.
bullshit, but bro, like
I think it's
if
more
Derrick
likely-
Henry was on the Eagles, like what the?
Yeah, I think it's more likely that they draft Bijan Robinson. I think that's probably what would happen.
That wouldn't be fun either.
They're saying that he's like the best running back prospect since
He's like Saquon type.
basically, yeah. They
Yeah.
compared him to Saquon, which is crazy. Sorry, let's get back to.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, you said for the Eagles. I think that record finally gets broken. I think we actually beat them this year.
Nick.
I think that the defensive losses probably hurt them.
Yeah, I would say it's tough because obviously the Eagles defending NFC champion, so I would have to lean loss, but obviously as a Jet fan, I'm always hopeful.
Okay.
And I'm the type of Jet fan who'll be like 17-0.
Well,
3-0,
you are
20-0.
going to write that the second.
Yeah, I know when September comes
second the
around.
season
I'll
starts, yeah.
But
Yeah.
for now, I'm gonna go loss.
Once the schedule opens up, Falcons are the next one.
That's a dub.
Confident dub.
Confident.
I'd
dub?
like to think Rodgers can beat Desmond Ritter.
Yeah.
If
I'd
we
like to
can't,
think
we
that.
got issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Herbert and the Chargers at
Oh.
home.
I think it's dub.
I'm gonna say win.
Yeah, I'm gonna say win too.
Go W for Obi.
Oh, Obi, he'll be watching. He watches.
You
He's
guys
one
are
of the
fucking
viewers.
arch
Shout out to Obi.
nemesis. Chiefs.
Loss.
I'm pretty confident on a loss.
I'm gonna go W.
Really?
Loss.
That'll be like because we can get into it too. Like we were talking about before, Schefter saying a bunch of primetime games. I like that. Hopefully it's early in the year. You know, teams are shaking out rust, and
Yeah.
that's something we can steal there. We
Um.
can compete with anybody now.
I agree.
truly believe that.
But
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I could see us winning the game 35-30, but I could also see us losing 35-30. I mean, it just like how you just said before with Mahomes. If he gets the ball with less than a minute left and 2 timeouts, it's almost a guarantee they're gonna get somewhere in scoring position.
Yep.
So, next up is the Texans. I think that's a chalk W.
W.
It is a W, but I will say on the Texans, they are going to be much improved, I believe, especially if
for
they
sure.
get that quarterback pick right. They got 2 picks in the first round, I think 2 in the second or 2 in the third. It's one of the 2.
Yeah,
I think they're going to be much improved.
yeah. I know they got 2 and 12, and then I don't know what picks they have exactly in the second, but I agree. They definitely are going to be improved, but
They were
Like I said,
scrappy last year.
they-
Like, they
yeah.
were not like they were bad, but like, I mean, we saw they lost the number 1 pick because they won that last game.
yeah, a lot of reports fly around for like 2 or 3 weeks leading up to the draft. Like there was a most recent report saying that they weren't even going to be drafting a quarterback,
Yeah.
but then odds changed for Will Levis, and he's projected to go second overall now. So
'Cause
you
it's
never
friends
know.
Family.
And
It's insane.
Right? Yeah.
And I think D'Amico Ryan's going to be a good coach. I really do.
Oh yeah, me too.
I was about to say that they were definitely a scrappy team last year, and then adding him on into this as a head coach, I think is just going to make them more competitive, and it's going to be a bigger push this year for them. So
Yeah. So and now we got the 3 division games. The Bills at home.
I'm going to go L.
I think I agree with Joe. I think I'm gonna go L at home, but then we win in Orchard Park.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I got the split, home and home.
All right.
See, I think we win both. I mean, like you said, I'm alongside with Joe on that. I'm not a big Josh Allen fan. I think that he really does choke when he, especially against the Jets. I don't know if it just happens to be the Jets or it's the kind of defense we play
Good
against him.
matchup. Yeah.
But I do think that, especially last year, it showed very kind of bright spots for him to be for the Jets to at least compete with them. So I think
Hey, Zach Wilson beat him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Zach Wilson owns Josh Allen. That's crazy.
So I got 2 losses so far.
Okay. Now the Dolphins.
W.
Well, we gotta go home and should we just?
no, we're still running through all the
just
home
gonna run
opponents.
through them like that.
Yeah. So the Dolphins.
I'm hoping, as a Jets fan, we open up with them Monday night. to start the season. I hope we kick their ass.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go dub.
Yeah,
I'm going W.
I'm doing the same thing between them and the Bills. Home and home wins.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's fair.
I agree with that. I think that it's a home and home split.
And then obviously the Patriots.
W.
Pats fans, your time's up.
Yeah, you guys are getting swept this year.
Even though that does definitely sound like the worst loss that we're gonna have. all
That
year.
could be the game.
Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
every season has
Just
at least
looms
just
over it.
just one loss where it's like, bro, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a low
With,
scoring
with
game.
our
Belichick
luck,
holds
it'll
us.
be against Mac
We
Jones.
score like 14 points.
Oh yeah. So the first road game we're gonna get into is the Cowboys. That one is obviously a potential
That's
Thanksgiving
got to be
game.
prime time, right?
Well, it could
Or
be a Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
game.
Yeah.
I think it's between us and the Eagles because I don't think you can use two little schedule quirk
Well,
here.
so
But I don't think
Cowboys
you can
are
use.
auto-locked,
They used
right?
the Giants last year for home, and there are two really good teams they play this year. Going to be Rodgers with the Jets and Eagles. So I think it's between those two games.
And that third game's still up in the air, right?
Yeah,
The third, like, nobody.
but
knows
that could
who
be anybody. That's-
Exactly. Yeah.
But going off that, I think a W on Thanksgiving.
A Thanksgiving W for the Jets would be it would be just the best.
Yeah, last time the Jets played on Thanksgiving was
Please
the
don't
Buffalo.
say it. Don't say it.
Had to say it, huh?
Yeah, I had to, man. I mean, look, we're turning over a new stone. We got a quarterback. It's okay. We can talk about the past because we know what's coming in the future.
All right.
But with that said, I have us beating them. So now the Giants, which is basically going to be a home game. Because
Yes.
Jets fans are pulling up for that.
Oh,
I'll be there,
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
go
probably
with
gonna
loud
buy
and
that
proud.
ticket.
But I'm gonna surprise you guys with this one. I'm gonna go L. I think they disappoint.
Oh, I think we smacked the shit out of them. What about you guys?
Look at Zach over there. I'm gonna go W.
I think we're like favored going into the game and all that, but NFL's wacky. You can't, it's all not chalk. And that's why I'm going to try to provide a little variety here, and I'm going to go L. Giants. No matter what you say, they're definitely not as talented, I think, but they are well coached as any team in the NFL.
Yeah. I don't know how this is. You go.
I see it being closer. Like, obviously, I think that because of how well they are coached, that it'll be tough for us to like sit here and be like, we're gonna spank them. No
Yeah.
offense, but I still do think that we're gonna get that dub.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one is the Broncos on the road.
Dub.
This is my surprise.
I'm gonna just say, I regardless of how this comes out, my real expectations, like, because obviously we're not gonna be right on all these. I think the Jets are gonna go 12-5. That's where I see them.
that's where I
12
have
and
it
5
too.
team is kind of what I see them as.
Yeah.
So I think so far I picked 3 L's for them. I'm gonna go W with this one, just because I don't believe in Russell Wilson anymore.
Okay. Yeah. This is the surprise one. I feel like for me, I actually have us losing this game.
Yep. And it definitely is a trap game. It seems like we never play well. We got lucky last year because Brett Ripon played, and
Right.
we won like 13-10 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
their defense is tough.
we never seem to play well there. Their defense is very good. Sean Payton, they're going to be well coached.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson,
Definitely
I would
gonna
hope improves a little bit.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a different team.
But I'm going to go W. I think they win.
Okay.
I think L too. I do think that is a place that we've never played well at. Even last year, that 13-10 game was one of the ugliest games of all time. So I do think it's gonna be tough for us to kind of capitalize on that.
Yep. In Cleveland.
L. This is
Oh,
going to be their
really?
worst loss of the year. Elijah Moore scores a touchdown. That's the prediction.
That's sad.
I think Sauce locks them up and we get a win
Sauce is gonna guard Elijah Moore.
for sure.
Sauce, no, Amari Cooper. If you remember the last
Yeah,
game,
Amari Cooper.
Amari
and that
Cooper
was
cooked us.
Sauce's worst game
Yeah.
of the year.
I know it was.
Mark Cooper's nice. I'm gonna go W.
Okay.
I'd say dub too, but it's the Browns.
I'm at 4 losses right now.
Then we go to Vegas.
W.
W.
Dub.
All right.
McDaniels, you ain't shit.
No. And Jimmy.
I think he's probably like, I don't know, it's a little off topic, but he's definitely coach fired during midseason. Like,
Absolutely.
watch for me, 100%.
Yeah. Now we're in Buffalo.
W.
That's the W. I picked a L for the home game.
I think that's L. I think sorry, Miami. I picked that L at home, so yeah, dub. for
Yeah.
Buff-
This is one of my 5 L's that I have. And then obviously the Miami game. I think we all touched on it before, but if you want to say it again.
W.
I'm gonna go. I picked them to win at home. I'm gonna take the L away.
Yeah, L away for me.
So that's my 4th loss.
We're
L-
sweeping
L away
those
from me.
losers. That's the one thing I'm confident about.
Yeah. And
I would love to.
Although they, like I said before, as a team, they scare me a little bit more than Buffalo, but just trying to predict the wackiness of the NFL schedule.
Yeah.
We'll play very well against them and then maybe drop the Buffalo game, like I said, at home. So
And then the last game, obviously, away against the Patriots.
time's up, New England.
Yeah, like I
W.
said before, you guys are getting fucking swept.
So
It's tough.
I got 13-4, and I think that's the range they're in. I think on the lower end, like if I had to cap it out at like a max of what they are and like their floor, if Rodgers is healthy all 17 games, because that's what we have to assume doing this, I would say 10-7 is their floor. If I had to put a floor to it, and I think the ceiling obviously would be 14-3, 15-2. It's crazy to
And
put the
15
Jets.
15
It's
too
crazy to
sounds
put the
crazy.
Jets in that kind of conversation, but they do have serious talent, and that's what I'm saying with the max. It's like if Rodgers balls out, if Rodgers plays at an MVP level that he did 2 years ago, it's not out the realm of possibility.
So what do you think those two losses would be? The Chiefs and the Bills?
That Eagles one is just a tough matchup.
Okay.
I really do think that. Chiefs obviously is tough, but I had them winning that game. But
Okay.
like anything with the NFL season, the Eagles almost ran the table, but they lost to the Commanders. Just some things without the NFL, you just can't
Yeah, that
predict
was
it.
random.
You just can't predict it.
Yeah.
But
I
we did
have
our best too.
I have 5 losses. I'll go through them again. I have us losing both road games against the Bills and the Dolphins. I have us losing to the Broncos in a surprise loss. I have us losing to the Chiefs, and I have us losing to the Eagles. Those are my 5 losses that I got for the Jets this year.
And you had 12-5 too.
I actually think I ended up with 13-4. I think they're going to be in that range. I think they're going to be in that 11 to 13 win range
And
if Rodgers is healthy.
And hopefully that's enough for the division,
Yeah.
Because, like Sam said it earlier, what's going to be so big, especially this first year with Rodgers, hopefully it's more than one. We have a 4th place schedule, so you'd like to take advantage of those 4th place teams we're going to play. Where Buffalo and Miami are going to be playing those 1 and 2 teams,
Right.
So,
True.
like,
Yeah.
like
The
I know
favorable
Buffalo has to
schedule
play
helps.
Cincinnati, Miami's got to play Baltimore, I think. So,
Yeah.
And they played them this year, and then we saw how that happened.
but I'm just saying they're going to have a little bit tougher schedule to us, so we have to capitalize on those 4th place games.
Yeah, you really have
100%.
to, especially this year. Do we want to touch on the NFL draft a little bit?
Definitely.
Yeah, we can get into it quick. I actually saved something on your phone.
I think it's on Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the most recent, of course, it goes away. The most recent Pro Football Focus, they had like the
Is it
updated
this one?
information. Yeah.
Okay.
So the most recent one, I'll just go through like 1 through 15 real quick. The first pick was Bryce Young. I think that's probably been the consensus for a while now. The surprise to me was Houston taking Anthony Richardson. They had the Tennessee Titans taking C.J. Stroud and trading up with Arizona. They said they sent picks 11 and 41 and a second rounder next year in exchange for number 3.
It's a fun little trade.
Yeah. Will Levis dropping to the Colts at 4. Seattle taking Jalen Carter. The Lions at 6 taking Will Anderson Jr. The Raiders taking Devon Witherspoon, which has been basically a lock all offseason. The Falcons taking Tyree Wilson, the edge out of Texas Tech. The Bears taking Luke Van Ness, which I thought was pretty surprising with all the offensive line guys that are available. Christian Gonzalez to the Eagles at 10, which was surprising after all the talk about them getting Brian Robinson.
Yep, cornerback from Oregon.
Number 11, obviously, is the Cardinals after the trade down. They take Skoronski, the tackle out of Northwestern. Texans take Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I guess they had him. Oh, no, because they have Richardson. They're not combining him with the quarterback. And then they have the Packers at 13 taking Quentin Johnson, which was actually surprising me after taking 2 rookie wide receivers last year. I've seen a lot of Dalton Kincaid go into them, which I thought was a better option. Patriots at 14 take Joey Porter Jr., and the Jets getting Paris Johnson.
Yeah, and I think a few notes on that, just to touch on the Jets real quick, and then I kind of want to talk about just like the NFL in general when it comes to the draft, because it'll be a little quiet for the Jets. That plays out pretty well for us because unless I missed one, I think only 1 tackle got taken before then.
It was Skoronski
Which
to
is
the Titans.
that's the goal for me. Like as I'm watching it, I'm gonna want an offensive tackle or a defensive tackle. That's what I want going into it. Build up the trenches and whatnot. And these quarterbacks, I don't think they're worth these picks except Bryce Young. I think he's gonna be pretty special. It's just I think the worry with him is the injuries. I think he's going to be the smallest out of every. He's like Kyler Murray sized a bit, you know.
I think he's
like
more
Russell Wilson.
He's more like the Drew Brees size. I think
Yeah.
Kyler's a little smaller, but I get what you're saying.
And Russell Wilson's short, but he was like stocky, you know. He can take hits and whatnot.
Yeah, but Drew Brees I think that I've seen reports saying that Bryce Young was like 165 at one point too.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, he's slight. Like there's nothing getting around it. He's like a small guy. And on top of being short, it's probably
You just hope the team that he goes to, whether it's Carolina at 1, Houston at 2, I think that's his floor. I don't think he gets past 2.
I don't think so either.
But quarterback's tough though, because I saw something the other day, or heard something the other day, that they were saying that there's no second round grades on quarterbacks, and it's because if you like a quarterback enough, you're just gonna trade up into the first round and pick them. And I think that's true because the whole entire front end of the draft gets turned upside down because of the quarterbacks, and I think that's why the Jets end up with the second offensive tackle taken in this mock at least, and hopefully on draft day that's what happens too.
Yeah, and quarterbacks unlike anything in sports really, because when you go into the draft, right, NBA team, just say they miss on a point guard, but they hit on a really good small forward, a really good power forward, they're gonna if they turn in the stars, it doesn't really affect them as much as like missing on a quarterback versus missing on a defensive end. You can bear that loss pretty quickly, but as you saw with the Jets, it's expensive to go get a quarterback when you don't go through the draft, and it's honestly, it sucks going through the draft because you have to be a pretty bad team to get in that position. So
and I think a big thing, like how you mentioned before, was trading up into the first round. The 5th-year option is a huge thing for being able to get quarterbacks, because obviously it gives you another year to evaluate them and see how they progress. And God forbid you have to change offensive coordinators and they have to learn a new playbook, and you see how they kind of progress throughout their years in the league.
And biggest thing I saw with this draft, just looking at like notes and what, you know, highly respected people in NFL media are kind of talking with it, is it just doesn't seem that strong. Like you see some anonymous GMs in quotes saying only 15 or 16 guys have first round grades. So like anything, like NFL draft's one of my favorite days of the year. I'm going to soak it all in, whatnot. It's going to be great. Hoping good things for the Jets, obviously, and just a fun day. But I'm hoping for a little bit of craziness with the quarterbacks. Because the more quarterbacks other teams take, we got ours out of the way. So, you know, the crop will
I don't know if
fall
you
down.
guys saw this, but Rovell tweeted this morning about. So apparently the rumor was that Levis was telling people that Carolina told him that they were going to draft him. So just like, I mean, Vegas always kind of knows. But like just overnight, so like last night, the odds for him to go number 1 were 50-1. Then they went to 20-1. And then this morning they went to 10-1. So I don't know what the truth is to that, but it is interesting to see like how like the narrative is kind of changing the week of the draft. Because I mean, Will Levis kind of just reminds me. He just kind of feels like a Zach Wilson type guy, like, or a Josh Allen, I guess, if everything were to work out. But he's that type of prospect. And trading all they gave away to get to 1. To draft a guy who's really a project seems like a little sketchy.
Yeah, and like
It's kind of similar to what you said before when we were talking.
yeah, and the thing is, like, I'm pretty outward with my dislike for those guys in Vegas, but they do know what they're talking about, what they're doing. So there is merit to that, you know, with that kind of movement and whatnot, because of the role it has in sports right now. But as far as like Will Levis, it's like, it's the same thing with Anthony Richardson to me, but even Anthony Richardson more so is like, it's a good discussion for these quarterbacks, right? Because you have Bryce Young, the guy from Alabama, the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. He went to a championship. I don't think he won one. Am I wrong?
I'm pretty sure he didn't win.
No,
I thought he lost in the championship.
Didn't they lose to Georgia twice?
Yeah.
Or once.
Oh, I know Georgia.
They had a down year this last year, and he was also dealing with some injuries.
Yeah.
And then you have your C.J. Stroud, right? He's very good. He performed well in some big spots, but my thing with him is his wide receivers. He's not facing that SEC competition for the most part. He did well against Georgia, so granted, that was very impressive, but he's got wide receivers running wide open.
Right.
That's not going to fly in the NFL. So it's hard to project that some guys will be able to transition very easily with that. A guy like Zach Wilson that we dealt with, that was a big part of his evaluation. He wasn't facing any good competition.
Yeah.
But then you got your guys like Levis and Richardson. They're the prototype build for quarterbacks. But I do really think the stats matter in college. If you're not Richardson's completing like 50% of his passes in college, like, I don't care who you're facing or who you're playing with. It's got to be better than that.
I mean, if you go back, I mean, like you said before when we were talking off camera, and we were talking about the 2018 draft, and that late news came out about Baker Mayfield, like you said, 2 days before the draft, and then he obviously ended up going #1 overall. But when you're talking about just going back to Josh Allen, he played at Wyoming. He didn't play anybody. His completion percentage was, I think, 56%. And he obviously panned out to be what he is now. Obviously, you're not as high on him, but you can't deny that he's a Pro Bowl level player. So you always have to take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to the draft because you never know how things are going to go. He got dropped into a perfect situation. He has a great coach. They brought in Stephon Diggs the second year. Dable was there, and he was just kind of in a perfect kind of blend and mashup of surrounding talent.
Yeah, and how about this? There's a few decent teams with 2 picks. I know the Lions, and now that Rodgers out of the
Texans.
division,
Lions scare me.
but the Lions, they got 2 first-round picks. I think their first one's 6th, and the other one's in the teens or early 20s. I forget,
Yeah.
but it's around that. Eagles have 2 first-round picks. I know they lost a lot of guys, but if they can draft well, Texans have 2. They're a building team. I'm excited to see what kind of comes out of that because if this Will Levis stuff's true, I love the Bryce Young to Texans fit, and then maybe they pair him with like Jackson Smith and Jigba or something like that. That would be fun.
Do you guys think that the Lions make a quarterback move with the 6th pick? Do they trade it? Do
That's
they
a good question.
Trade up?
I think they run it back with Jared Goff. I think that they're just in the mode of getting as much talent as possible. I mean, you think of what that defensive line would be like. I mean, if you're able to go out and get Jalen Carter and you're able to pair him with Aiden Hutchinson, you're going to have one of the best duos in the entire NFL. And if you look at the offensive lines in that division, the Bears are one of the worst offensive lines in the league. The Packers are going to have to try and figure out what they're going to do. And Minnesota has never been that great of an offensive line team. And I think that they'll be able to kind of work what they can with Jared Goff and go into next offseason and figure it out then.
Yeah, I think the Lions' big thing that they could try to do is even that 2024 draft is going to be nuts too. I think Caleb Wilson's obviously the white whale of that draft, and
Right.
I mean
Caleb
I'm
Williams,
sorry,
yeah.
but I think that he's definitely the one that everybody's going to be trading up and going after, and I think that's a smart thing for the Lions to do because none of the guys this year I think are like surefire
On that level.
like superstar level.
Yeah, a big. You know what I just remembered? I forgot how many of it. It was like 5 or 6 different wide receivers got suspended for gambling,
And Jameson
including
Williams.
Jameson Williams. Right.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a killer. Him, Zay Flowers, Quentin Cephas. That basically their entire wide receiver room got busted for illegal
Wasn't
gambling.
it like they weren't gambling on the NFL? It was just
No,
gambling.
it was just gambling.
So
in
if you're a
general.
professional
Facility.
athlete, you're not allowed to gamble at all.
In the team
Like,
facility.
Yeah, on like team facility grounds.
But like, how did that's the thing? How
How
did
do
they figure
you-
that out? Is it like an IP address?
must
Is like
be.
a
No,
Wi-Fi or something?
they track you.
Yeah,
That's
all the
crazy.
gambling apps do it for everybody. They all.
That's kind of crazy.
But I'm sure the NFL has even more of like an advanced kind of look on that
Yeah.
because they do have to protect themselves so much from that because that is the easiest way for the league to lose credibility is of a mishap with the gambling stuff going on. So,
Yeah.
but
And
just
they have to track you because they have to base off. Are you in a state that has legalized gambling?
No, 100%. I kind of like that because, like, obviously, like the gambling thing kind of comes into play. Not to like, get on that, but for them to be as aggressive as it is, the past 2 years, seeing major suspensions kind of laid down on talented players, is
Calvin Ridley.
is a definitely a positive thing that's going forward.
yeah, and just to touch back on your question about the Lions, it's like a team like that. If they're the Lions were like a perennial playoff team making the playoffs every year, it'd be easy for them to sell to their fans, oh, I'll draft a quarterback. He could be like, sit a year or two behind Jared Goff. But when you're a team like them, it's similar to us Jets fans. It's like they don't really get too much to root for, and they're going to want to go for it.
Yeah.
You know, and the NFC is much weaker than the AFC. Obviously, the Eagles are a very good team. San Fran's going to be another good team no matter who their quarterback is. But it would be tough to sell to a fan base, hey, we're going to draft a quarterback who's not going to play this year.
Yeah.
Like when you have 2 prime picks in the first round to go for it and really compete for the playoffs, especially with Rodgers gone now.
Yeah. Also with how good Goff was last year, like he was great.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, the Lions make me wish that it was like kind of the NFL players or quarterbacks were more like NBA players and just like
No.
like, hey, I'm out. No, I don't care about my contract. like trade me. Like I'm miserable in my situation. Like I kind of wish like that's exactly what would be perfect for them to like get some superstar who's just disgruntled, like a Joe Burrow just gets pissed off at Cincinnati or something.
Lamar.
I mean Lamar, but yeah, but like. Where were they? Were they one of the first one of those teams who like ducked out first off? Because like that's
It
also
was
a whole
like 10
different.
It was like 10 different.
Gosh,
guys
that's a
that
whole
ducked
different
out this
thing.
season.
Goff's a good player too. There's different ways. I think you're going to see this in the NFL a lot more because obviously these quarterback contracts are getting insane, right?
Yeah.
So I think what you're going to start to see, and I think obviously Jalen Hurts, he got paid now, but you're going to start to see GMs go crazy about building the whole team out and trying to have just a quarterback who can get by. Like, look at the 49ers.
Geno.
No, but look at Purdy. I mean,
Oh, Purdy.
like, you build a team out that well, you can compete with a guy who's not that upper echelon quarterback, and you also don't have to make that financial commitment.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean that one was more of a luck situation. The fact that he obviously fell in their lap at the end of the draft
But
and
it's proof.
and injury. Well, I mean it is proof, and I think that he hopefully comes back healthy after the UCL injury, and that he's able to still be the same guy. But I do agree that teams like the Seahawks, like the Niners, like the Lions would rather build out their teams and just get top end talent, blue chip players in their locker room and figure out the quarterback later. Because if you're able to just be a quarterback away, you can then trade 2 future picks because you know they're going to be at the end of the draft and then figure it out that way.
And these owners clearly don't like that guaranteed money, you know.
Yeah, no.
Oh shit! Sorry, I was
Yeah.
expecting you guys to talk.
There you go.
I think that we should just segue into the NBA now. Are you guys cool with
I
that?
agree.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So now we got Knicks moment, time to shine.
Let's
I
go.
mean, I think we have to start with the Knicks.
Love that.
I was actually listening to the mismatch today with Kevin O'Connor and Chris Vernon, and Chris Vernon was just talking about how like he's like, I really thought this was gonna be like the best series to watch, and it just hasn't been, and it's pretty crazy because the Knicks, like outside of Brunson and Josh Hart has had those 2 games, RJ had those 2 games. As a whole, like Julius Randle's been terrible. We don't know if it's his ankle. I'm hoping it's his ankle because if he's this bad in the playoffs, fully healthy, it's just not good. But they're shooting as a team 27% from 3. They're the only team in the NBA playoffs right now that are shooting under 30% from 3. Yet they're up 3-1 to a team that everyone kind of thought was going to beat them. So it, to me at least, it kind of brings me back to what something Chris Vernon said like 2 years ago when he was talking, 2 or 3 years ago. He was talking about the pre-Kawhi and Paul George Clippers, and he was like, I love teams that just have guys who like don't suck.
Yeah,
Like if you look at a team like the Cavs, it's like they're so top heavy, and then it's like Jetty Osman, and it's like Ricky Rubio's trying to give him minutes, and it's like they're
Dean
just
Wade.
like Dean Wade. It's like guys like they're nice players. Everyone in the NBA is a great basketball player, but they're not difference makers in the NBA playoffs. Whereas the Knicks are going 9 deep, and every guy on their team can play. Like some of them are gonna have like Julius Randle's playing terrible. Emmanuel Quickley, the runner-up to the 6th man of the year, has been not good. He's been good defensively. He's scored, I think, 3, 12, 11, and 0 in the playoffs. And it's like, bro, like they're up 3-1. And as Knicks fans, like, and same for the Jets, like the series ain't over until it's over. I'm going to be nervous for game 5 tomorrow. I'm going to be nervous for anything
Game
else.
5 tomorrow. That's it.
Absolutely, but I mean, I want to put my hand up because just they exceeded my expectations already. I'll put my hand up. I was wrong because I predicted them to lose in 5 because I just thought playoff basketball, it would just be a different game for them that they wouldn't be ready for. But in fact, it's been quite the opposite. I don't think the Cavs have been ready, for that and whatnot. But and then again, it's like these moves, like you said, it's just they're deep too. Like that bench they're rolling out too, and then when you mix it with the starters, it's just better than all the other teams' benches, and that's where they really make their hay and whatnot. So
100%.
that Josh Hart trade is crazy good.
Josh Hart is good at basketball.
Couldn't have even imagined. No, like I thought he was always solid. Could not have imagined like how well he would fit.
Yeah.
I didn't know either. I thought he was like, I was like, oh, cool, like a solid pickup. Like I didn't even think he was like that much of a huge like upgrade from Cam, and it's like it's just crazy, bro.
Well, a lot of teams tried to make him something that he wasn't. Like they tried to fit him in a role where, and like it was like a catch and shoot kind of specialist or a 3-and-D type of guy, and obviously that's kind of what he is. But like
To a lesser degree.
he kind of is a rover, and he just kind of does whatever needs to be done, and it's an awesome role for him, and he's obviously thriving in it. But kind of going on what you were talking about the people who surprise you the most, I think the number one person who's surprised me the most as the guy who's watched 82 Knicks games this year was Tom Thibodeau, because I was not. I think the way he's coached this series so far has been insane, and I was
In a good way.
yes, in a good way. I think the thing that jumps off like the bat to me is benching Randall in the fourth quarter of that game, because I don't think Tibbs during 82 games in the regular season would have done that at all. I think that he would have kind of conceded to the superstar, even though we can argue if we think Randall's a superstar or not, but I think he would have conceded to that. And the other big thing is I just think game plan wise they're better. Like, we give Randall some crap because he's not performing well, but I think it's a game plan thing. If you're watching the Knicks, and don't want to get too basketball nerdy, but they're doing guard on guard screens. They're screening on the primary ball for the primary ball handler with another guard to get either Mitchell or Garland onto Brunson, RJ, somebody, so that they're not getting Evan Mobley, who's a defensive player of the year candidate, switched on to him. And I think that Tibbs is kind of keeping away from that, and honestly using Randall as a sacrifice in a way. So like that's how I think the game plan's going with the Knicks. So I think it's kind of by design. So I think that Tibbs, who I didn't think made any adjustments, who wasn't capable of making any adjustments at all, has definitely made a good job of winning the series. Because I think he's just coached circles around Bickerstaff so far this series.
And to touch on what you said, I think I found it's from Kevin O'Connor's article about that screening situation. Yeah. So basically, through 4 games, 53% of screens set for Brunson have been by a guard or a wing. Mm-hmm. According to Second Spectrum, during the regular season, that number was only 12%. So they've like really figured out like a way to kind of just deal with having those 2 7-footers, like 2 elite defensive players, and just Randall's been affected by it, but everything else has been working. I mean, and you just got to think if they can start to finally really hit some shots.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Like I can't see a whole series where like Emmanuel Quigley doesn't have one good game.
Yeah, but it's also just there's nothing set up for it. I mean, I think that they're getting the shots that they want. Obviously, you want some more threes to fall. 27% is nothing that you want to see happen. But I think at the same time, the offensive looks the Knicks are getting are efficient. They're the looks they want to get. They're not settling for any bad shots like they were the whole regular season. So I do think that they're in a good place. I'm excited to see what Tibbs does tomorrow, and knock on wood, I hope the next round against whatever team we end up playing, because I do think that it's interesting to see a coach who you can argue he's a Hall of Fame coach, sure, whatever. He wasn't at all during the regular season to me. In my view of him, but I definitely seen him kind of really shine the past week and a half, 2 weeks in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean what you were saying about the coach thing too, because you look at basketball and like NBA, and like just as a casual fan myself, just looking at it, it's like, oh, the players just run the league and all, I mean all that, and they run the show. But when you hear stuff like that, what you brought up with Thibodeau and whatnot, it's like that's the kind of stuff that can really give you an advantage this time of year. Because if you have a coach who can recognize certain things like that and implement it in a way that the players can, thrive off that, it's like you always think NFL coaches, it's like strictly X's and O's. They're a huge part of it, and NBA coaches really don't get that, but it exists. And, I'm like you, I'm praying for the Knicks to win because it's very good for New York. I mean, we're all excited about it.
It's good vibes.
But yeah, all good vibes around New York, us all being here, obviously. But the Knicks being good is also good for the NBA. It really is. You see it in the videos. The Knicks fans just bring a certain energy that most fan bases can't. So,
another thing that I want to mention is that with Randall, like you said, he's not having a good series, and it could be attributed to the ankle, or it could be attributed to the fact that they're not using him in the offense and they're going really guard heavy on their pick and roll plays and their whole game plan. But that can easily change based off of who they get matched up with if they obviously, knock on wood, get to the next round. So I think that obviously can all change depending on how the rest of the playoffs go, and Randall can obviously be the number one option in the future if obviously it gets permitted by the team that they're playing.
See, I caught myself in a Charlie Day from Always Sunny with my head, like the whiteboard behind me in my head like this,
crazy,
freaking out yesterday because I'm like, okay, so if we play the Heat, like we gotta play the same kind of way because they have Bam and all. And so I'm already kind of thinking that, and I'm kind of a little bit too far ahead of myself. But I do think that like it is interesting because the two big games I can remember us playing the Heat, that was Randall that went off for us. That shot with Pat Riley looming in the corner, that was one of the best shots I've seen as a Knicks fan, besides that RJ three that he hit against Celtics last year. But still, I still do think that it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. And I think it's very fluid. I think that the way that, as long as Tibbs presses the right buttons and can keep everybody on the same page, I think that it can be. I think that's honestly the X factor going in, because on the Eastern Conference, I don't know any coaches that I really am that afraid of, or I think that are going to beat us. Obviously, I think the Stars, you have that, but Missoula, I'm not afraid of. The only one I guess you could say I just forgot about it was Spoelstra.
Yeah,
because Spoelstra is the one
who
who might actually be able to do something against us. But that's it.
Yeah, and on that, I want to ask you guys a question, because I mean, I'm not going to ask for a Knicks prediction because we're not in the business to jinx them right now. We're one win away, so let's hold out on that.
Here.
No, but for the Bucks and Heat, Jimmy Butler, I'm not too drawn into NBA basketball for the most part. I turned on the fourth quarter of that. That was incredible what he did. So I kind of wanted to ask you guys, how do you think that series plays out? Because when I was watching ESPN this morning, listening to the radio in the car, it was like a lot of it was like, oh, still Bucks in 7. They're gonna get it done. What do you guys think? How do you see that shaking out?
I mean, it's just weird. Like, Jimmy Butler, like, he does this every year. And it's like every year, like, during the regular season, that we start to all kind of write him off. Like, he misses a lot of games. He's still great, but it's like the Heat are kind of like, they're not really that good. And then in the playoffs, like, the dude just becomes like a top 5 player in the league. It's like it doesn't even make any sense. Like, playoff Jimmy Butler is a real thing, and like that's terrifying. Like obviously, like, we're not gonna predict the Knicks to win. We're hoping that they win and they get to the next round. And I mean, even though, like, I would still rather play the Heat. They lost Tyler Herro. He's not coming back unless they make the finals.
Oladipo's out too.
Oladipo's out. Their rotation's shrinking. Like, I would love to see Kevin Loving, Duncan Robinson. Like,
oh my God!
Trying to guard
if I saw Duncan Robinson on the court, that'd be
back
bad.
to like more of your question. I kind of personally, I think the Bucks come back. Like, I just think that their talent, like, especially like Giannis is back. Like, as long as he's healthy, and he's like able to, like, he looked all right yesterday.
Looked good yesterday. I mean,
yeah, you know,
like I was like, if it wasn't for Jimmy Butler dropping 56 points, like, that's Giannis being like, I'm back from injury.
Right.
And maybe it wasn't the statement game because Jimmy Butler made the statement by scoring 56 points, but that he was good yesterday. So I see where people think that it will go 7 and the Bucks will end up winning, but I don't know.
I'm going Bucks in 7. I think Jimmy's great. I just don't think the rest of that team is good enough. I don't think Bam really. I just don't see it. Like, and if any team can win 3 in a row, it's going to be Giannis, and that, like, they've been there. They've been in these situations. Giannis is the best player in basketball. Like, I could easily see the Heat winning, but it's hard for me to say, like, Giannis just, like, folds.
I just think that was a punch in the gut yesterday. I think that was like it's hard for a team to, like, bounce back from that. Like, 56 points. Like, I know we were on the road, so it wasn't like a home game or anything.
Up
but
10 with 5 minutes too.
Like, they blew the lead, and there was nothing they could do about it. And they played well. Like I said, Giannis had a great game. Lopez had a great game. I still think that it is a matter of seeing if they can kind of just get Middleton or even Allen or somebody who's not one of those top 2, like the guys who did the last game, to at least wake up the next game, because I still think it's going to be a hard thing for them to recover from after a loss.
But if you just if you break it down, it's like, even with, like, for the Knicks, like, who have this lead, it's like, if the Cavs or the Bucks, they got to win a game at home. That's not crazy. Yeah. Then they got to realistically, they got to steal that one on the road, and then it's like, bro, game 7 in your house, like, I don't know. If you force it to a game 7, like, would the Cavs and the Bucks be favorites? Like,
yeah, it's just, for me, it's like, the Heat are a good team. They're well coached. Obviously, you didn't know what to expect because they're in the play-in game. They lost the first play-in game.
They lost the first to the Hawks.
But as an NBA team, it's going to be tough to beat the same team 3 teams in a row.
Yeah.
That is
3
true.
times in a row.
Yeah,
I'm
3
sorry.
times in a row.
No, 3 times in a row. You, like that. Like we always like get to see it. Like obviously I watch the regular season, so I'll sit there and I'll watch be like, oh, you can't beat the Bucks or we can't beat this team 3 times in a row. Or 3 times in a season. Like in a series, it's tough. And like I said, I can't see the Bucks kind of coming back. I mean, obviously they on paper they're better, but that was a gut punch last night.
Yeah. The NBA is so momentum based. I mean, even the NHL with these 7-game series, they're so momentum based. If you're able to really get off on the right foot, if the rest of the team, obviously even with Oladipo and Hero being out, if the rest of the team is able to feed off of the energy that Jimmy Butler just laid out for them in Game 4 and carry that over into Game 5, and really everybody else kind of, like you said, Duncan Robinson, if he's able to knock down a couple threes because everybody else is leaving him open because Jimmy Butler's drawing so much attention to him.
Yeah.
And you're able to get those role players that can just, like, I'm thinking all the way back to even the Heat back in 2013. You just have like a random, like Shane Battier just starts going off for some reason. Mike Miller just starts going off for some reason. Those guys are closeout series people because everybody's like, all right, we got to focus on the stars. We can't let them beat us. We got to win in our own house. Those people just come out of nowhere, and that'll kind of ruin the night for
I
you.
don't think the Bucks have that. I think they have Connaughton, Allen, like really who else? I mean, Drew. I think you had the big 3. You have Drew, Middleton, and Giannis. But after that, like I don't know who else I'm really afraid of there.
Yeah, it's really just Brooke hitting some random shots
They
that
got,
just leave him
and
open
Jay
for
could
it.
have a big. He's been in big moments.
And Bobby Portis, I mean, could go off, but like at the same time, like
Bobby.
I'm not super like sold on them having that like Shane Battier guy.
Right.
Meanwhile, like Miami can go back to Miami, and I think that it could be like
Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson.
Or the Max
I mean,
Strus
honestly,
game?
the
Yeah,
Strus
Max Strus
game,
game,
the
right,
Strus
yeah.
game, the Gabe. I mean, yesterday was kind of the Gabe Vincent game. We even saw a little bit of the Caleb Martin game yesterday too. He was hitting some some crazy threes.
On the momentum topic too, it's like I was watching that game. When was the Bucks coach going to call a timeout?
Oh,
he just kept
yeah.
letting it go, and because all it takes is like a good 6-minute spurt to really just change momentum and a whole basketball series, really. You know,
Coaching's been bad this postseason. I don't know if you if you guys watched the Lakers game yesterday too. Taylor Jenkins for the Lakers was also just like getting. I mean, for the Grizzlies was getting worked yesterday. It was.
I wanted to talk about that next because, and also just in general, like before, like we even go into detail, it's like it's really interesting how open the NBA is right now. I can't remember in the past like 10 years anything like it because we've got the 8 seed potentially on the verge of beating the Bucks. So we got the Heat beating the Bucks. Lakers are the 7 seed. Obviously, if it wasn't for injuries, they wouldn't be the 7 seed. But they're about to take out the Grizzlies, who are the 2 seed. We got the Knicks, who nobody. I mean, they're a 5 seed, but nobody thought they had a chance against the Cavs.
No, nobody.
No, everyone was picking the Cavs.
it was all like the Knicks stigma. It's like, oh, they'll have a nice little regular season,
Yeah.
and playoffs, and me included. I predicted
Yeah,
that too. So.
I mean, I predicted the Knicks in 7, but
Like,
I wasn't confident with that. I was just like, I can't go against them.
Yeah.
But
I was happy for like 2 playoff games, like that. You know what I mean? Like 2 home playoff games. Like that's all I was really like counting on, and I was happy for.
Yeah.
But like obviously this run is just insane. But I do think that like it is just wide open, and obviously you have the weird series with the Philly sweeping the Nets, and then you obviously have. I didn't catch the end of this Celtics game, but obviously I think they took care of business tonight, or let's see. But regardless, it's like the rest of the teams, nobody's afraid of. I think it is very open. And I know I don't want to skip over you if you want to talk about the Grizzlies and the Lakers, but I think the Suns are a perfect example where they're the prohibitive favorite right now.
wow.
Wait.
Hawks beat the Celtics 119 to 117.
Wow.
They outscored them 37 to 25 in the last,
In the last
quarter.
quarter. Wow.
We had it first.
That's crazy. Yeah, you heard it
Yeah.
here on Getting Technical first.
Yeah. Sorry, Turner. But no, I do think, like, for example, like I think the Suns,
They're so interesting, that team.
I really do think it is.
It's because I want to see Nuggets Suns a lot because I want to see the Nuggets finally fully healthy in playoffs because hasn't Murray missed the last like couple?
Yeah.
Yeah, he really hasn't been fully healthy since the bubble.
Yeah, and you know Jokic obviously 2-time MVP, right, whatnot. So I'm so curious to see that matchup because everyone's thinking it's like, oh, this Suns super team. It's like, but they haven't really overly impressed me. I'd
No,
say
yeah.
personally, because I mean they've also been dealt a very good hand, in this first round.
I was
so.
listening to him the BS on the Bill Simmons podcast today. 45 like Booker and KD average like 45 minutes each. Like for them to beat this Clippers team, which is Russell Westbrook, Norman Powell, and Zubac, and you want to put Plumlee out there
I
sometimes.
don't even know if that's a play-in team.
Yeah, like no, you're 100% right. For them to need to play 45 minutes a night just to beat them, I think is kind of insane. Specifically, with you look at the lack of depth they have. They're honestly like a couple role players away from just being like really just not having another person off the bench being able to come off the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I was like trying to figure something out real quick. So I wasn't even paying attention.
I have a question for you guys. I know we didn't plan this, but like this playoffs, everyone still, I guess, remaining in this playoffs. I guess you can count the Nets, but I don't think anybody in this question I'm about to ask would really apply to it. It's like, who would you want in this playoffs? LeBron hit that game-tying layup. That's what spurred kind of the thought for me. Pick one player remaining in this whole playoffs. The Jimmy Butler performance last night, too, is like, who are you picking last shot? You have one guy to pick in this playoffs. You want taking that game winner or game-tying shot like LeBron did last night.
In the playoffs currently.
Yeah.
Has to be playing on the team in the
Yeah.
playoffs. Okay, cool. Because my answer is Lillard, but it's
Yeah,
not.
no.
Like, he's obviously that doesn't count. Let me
I
think.
think I'm going Jimmy Butler.
That's where my head. That's where I'm leaning. But
Like,
part of me wants to go Steph Curry though.
He hasn't really been good in crunch time in playoff games in really his whole career.
God, bro, there's something about playoff Jimmy Butler. Like, the dude just locks into like this next like gear. It doesn't even make sense.
It's
to
a
be
crazy
honest.
level of confidence.
Like,
Those shots last night, they weren't even like good with the shot clock and whatnot. But he was just on a whole different level last night.
I think,
as much as I hate him, I think you have to say KD. I think it's like
Yeah.
KD's that dude. at
Here's
the end
one
of the
thing
day.
I'll say though.
I was gonna go LeBron. I mean, dude's got the most playoff buzzer
Yeah.
beaters of all
Not
time.
a-
I mean,
yeah.
he's just proven it time and time again that he's gonna be able to get
He
it.
turned back the clock last night. It's like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was his first game winner in 4 years because you're so used to seeing it every year. But he's been kind of let down by his supporting cast the last few years. So it's nice to see him back. I hope they win a round or two at least, make it interesting.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys think the Lakers can make a legit playoff run? Like, do you think they can win the chip this year?
Who would they be playing in the next round?
Suns.
The Suns.
I thought the Suns were the 4.
No,
Yeah. Yeah,
No,
no,
it would
they-
be Kings Warriors. Would be the matchup. The 3-6.
Oh
versus
yeah,
the
yeah, they're
2-7.
playing the Warriors. Shit.
Wait, are they playing the
Warriors or the Kings.
Well,
Well,
whoever
who's
Warriors are
who's
they
leading
playing?
the series?
It's tied.
2-2.
Oh, it's tied. It's
Now that
2-2.
Fox is
Are
out.
they playing tonight?
No, Fox is playing tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
Fox
he
is
is?
playing
With a
in game
with a
5.
broken
yeah.
hand.
Compromised.
No, it's
so
just a broken finger. I think.
A broken finger, yes.
So okay.
He's going to be
Can't
compromised.
imagine a whole hand broken playing.
That'd be nuts.
Nah, it's his index finger on his right hand, which is, I mean, it's not easy, but
But yeah, they would have to go through that team.
I think they could beat either of those teams.
I do too.
I don't, but it's like at the same time, like I just don't see the Lakers winning the chip. Like I just don't see it.
I
Yeah.
don't see that, but
But
mean,
then
if they-
again, like,
if they
I'm not
had-
scared of the Nuggets. And I'm not scared of the Suns either because the Suns are like, they're up 3-1, but like they're not taking like, it's a close game and the Clippers don't have Kawhi or Paul George, so
I
it's
think-
like it's not. I'm not convinced by the Suns. Their bench is awful.
I think the most exciting matchup, just because of how well they played each other during the season, is the Kings and Lakers. Like that matchup would be so fun to watch because all of their games were so back and forth.
Yeah.
And they always came down to the wire. I think that matchup would
And
be
that
the
brings
most
back some
entertaining.
like early 2000 vibes.
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
like
yeah.
Bibby, Peja, like that brings back some like
Weber.
good like Western Conference semi vibes. So I
Yeah.
think like that would be the dream series. But I like realistically, I think that the Lakers do have a chance. I really think that you get the Suns out of this next round, and I completely forgot they'll be playing the Nuggets, and I do think the Nuggets have a good chance of winning against the Suns, but I really don't think the Lakers. They can match up against the Kings. They can match up against the Nuggets. Maybe the Suns would be the
what
worst
about
matchup
the
with them.
Warriors?
Still, I'm not afraid of the Warriors. They really besides the possibility of Steph going off, I'm not super afraid of like him of the rest of the team.
Yeah, how I see it is I don't think they beat the Warriors, but I think they beat the Kings. Is how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they would have a tougher time with the Kings. I think the Kings might the Kings might run him out of the building.
Yeah, they
I
got
mean,
one of the
just
most efficient offenses
But
of all
LeBron's
time.
experience, I think, would play a huge role in that series. It's a lot
Yeah.
of guys. That's a next step up. I know they're playing the defending champions. It would be a whole another step up, I think, for them. LeBron will know what to do and how to, get it done then. But
I think the question mark for me with the Lakers, though, and the reason why I think that the Kings series would be tough for them is AD, because he has not, like, for at least like 10 quarters this like playoff so far, he has not looked good. Like he's obviously shown flashes, like the fourth quarter and overtime last night. He was good, like that was good for him. But other than that, he really has just been like looking just sluggish. He's been looking bad, looking like he's just a ball stopper too. Just has not really been like the best AD performance, and it's kind of disappointing considering what we all thought he was at one point.
Yeah, I think a big thing with the Lakers is defensively. As of right now, they're playing really well against the Grizzlies, but they're a bigger team naturally as opposed to the Kings. They're a more guard oriented team with Monk, Fox, and all of them there. I think that it would give Vanderbilt and who's the other big wing defender that they got? It's Vanderbilt
Hachimura.
and
Rui?
Rui. I was thinking more because
Reeves, maybe?
Oh, Troy Brown?
Oh yeah, Troy Brown. I mean, they've been the real wing defenders out there for them, but they're bigger guys, and they're not. I don't think they would be as agile or even be able to keep out De'Aaron Fox to begin with.
Okay, De'Aaron Fox, I think, like sneaky, like MVP candidate, like top 5, definitely an MVP voting this year. I think that he's going to be a tough handle for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, he also
even Malik
has,
Beasley would have a problem with him too.
but he hasn't given the. I mean, he's given the Warriors some fits this series, but nothing that's been like, oh my god, like it's the De'Aaron Fox game, which hopefully like he comes out tomorrow. That would be or tonight
It's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. It would come out tomorrow, and then would have a good game against him. But other than that, like I'm not super concerned with any of those teams in the West.
It could be a combination of obviously the injury, but also first playoff game jitters. I mean, now that they have made the playoffs for the first time in however long this drought has been going on for them, and obviously now, of course, the Jets have the longest playoff drought. But obviously that has to play some kind of factor into the way De'Aaron Fox has been playing and why he hasn't been able to have that go-off game, that Jimmy Butler kind of game, you know?
Well, I mean, he's been really good.
He's been really good, but he hasn't had that statement game is kind of what
Didn't he
he's
have
getting
38? Like,
I think he had 37.
That was in one of the. Was that an
Didn't
overtime
they lose
game though?
that game though?
I don't know. I feel like he's kind of been going off.
I think Sabonis is the one who's been off, but I don't think
Yeah.
that like De'Aaron Fox. And the reason why I say that he hasn't had, and I agree with you that he hasn't had that takeoff game, is because he's that type of dude. Like he's Westbrook. Like I'm going to carry my team, and we're going to like win this game because of me type of player. And I don't think he's had that moment yet. Obviously, first postseason,
Yeah.
but I think that that's kind of what I'm waiting for De'Aaron Fox after the crazy season he's had this past year.
He's great, but I just don't think the Kings really have like if he's compromised with his finger, bro. Like I mean, we'll see how he plays through it tomorrow. But if he's like not himself, the Kings have no chance. Like he has to go into it. He has to play at another level for them to really have a chance to make a playoff run. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit, not about the Knicks, but I did want to talk about RJ a little bit.
Okay.
I know you're a big RJ guy. I've been hating on him all year.
Number one
Mainly
RJ
because
supporter.
I bought like all of his cards and he's been asked, so they're worth nothing now. But like his last 2 playoff games, like I mean he's only 22. I think he turns 23 this summer.
Yeah.
But do you think like if you had asked me a week and a half ago, I would have said the Knicks had to move on from him. Now I'm like I don't know. But what do you think that RJ still can he really become like that all-star player, or do you think he's just like kind of a guy who is a solid defender, he can get to the rim, create a little bit, but he's just not really ever going to take that next step?
I do think that RJ could still be a number 2 on a team. I really see a player like a Harrison Barnes type of kind of role. Him kind of being able to fill that. Now, is that a great number 2? No. I think you need like a very solid number 1, and I really think that me being biased is going to call that number 2. Really, it's probably actually more of a number 3 kind of role. But I do think that RJ definitely does have that still in him. I really, and I've said this in our group chat countless times, I think the Knicks really did not use him that great this season. I felt like it was just kind of like, hey, RJ, here's the other two guys who are going to have the ball most of the time, and then you're just going to have to kind of deal with it. And then I think that his progression and his kind of development took a little bit of a step back this year just because of his role. And I do think that he still can be that guy. And when you and I would argue if we should move on from him, I don't think obviously it's not because I want RJ. I think they tanked his value this year. What we could have gotten from him last year was going to be so much more than what we would be able to get from him now. So I think that they did a bad job if they were trying to move on from him.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is that they put so much expectation on his plate early, and he really wasn't able to live up to it, and he really wasn't able to adjust properly. And then obviously bringing Jalen Brunson in dropped him down a peg, and he was obviously the number 3 option for them. So if they're able to finally move on from Julius, and now that he's able to, if he can become the number 2 option and really prove that he can be that guy, I think that would be huge for them because obviously, like you said, Julius Randle has not proved himself this playoffs. He hasn't looked right, whether it's the injury or whether it's just performance in general. That has to be an option for the Knicks in the offseason because they were already thinking about it last offseason. So, I mean, there's really nothing much has changed.
And I do think that, like, the reason why I've always been anti-Julius and kind of pro-RJ is because I know what Julius is. Like, you know what he is. I really think he's tall Westbrook. I think he's a player who's going to get your team to 45 to 50 wins just based off of him in the regular season and then going to squander everything in the postseason. I think that's kind of the caliber of player he is. Do I think that RJ is better than that? It's yet to be seen, and that's kind of where the jury is still out with him. But I do think that taking Randall out of that role, and I think I made this joke to you when we were watching Game 3. Randall takes so many catch and shoot threes for the Knicks. Like he gets so many hey, here we're dumping the ball off to you. Here's a catch and shoot 3. Well, it feels like RJ, every single one of RJ's 3 is off the dribble. He's trying to create some space and he's just chucking it up. So I do think that there is a stepping on toes kind of thing that RJ kind of does fall by as the ugly stepchild for a lot of the minutes and looks for the Knicks.
Yeah, and just speaking on that too, especially that's kind of where I was gonna go with this is I think RJ got caught in a little bit of a bad spot this offseason because it's for a few reasons. One, you're bringing in Jalen Brunson, which is totally gonna shift how they play on offense. Mm-hmm. The second thing is he got paid well. Expectations raised. And then the third thing was he was, whether right or wrong, he was kind of that guy, this is why we didn't get Donovan Mitchell. Whether those stories are true or not, that's kind of tough to deal with. And for how much I've kind of ragged on him for being bad in the regular season, if he's going to be like this in the playoffs, these last 2 games, and continue that, I'm all good with him, because I think the Knicks are entering that territory where if they keep this core, they're going to be good enough to make these playoffs every single year. And you're going to want him to perform like this in the playoffs, So I can deal with the regular season struggles if he gets cold like he did this year. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing with RJ is he's been in the league. This is his 4th year. Obviously, his first year was a COVID year, and then they played with no fans, and everything was kind of just thrown off. And he's still 22, which is you could just go back to it, and it's as much as I want to rag on him, then I'm he's still 22, which is very young. He's younger than, I think, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin. He's probably younger than some of the dudes who are going to be in this year's draft, which is crazy.
I guess the only rebuttal before we move on, it's as a Knicks fan, selfishly, you look at it, it's the 22-year-old's over here, the 21-year-old over here is performing very well. And it almost seems like RJ regressed this year, but you hope.
But so did a lot of lot of those RJ type players. A lot of those 3-and-D. Is this guy going to take a step up? Wait, we brought another ball dominant player, and the first player that comes to mind with me is DeAndre Hunter. And I think DeAndre Hunter and him were on a similar kind of trajectory. But then next thing you know, DeJounte Murray comes in, Trae Young, and then you just don't have that role anymore. So I do think that yes, he did regress, and there's no getting to it. But I think it's something that happened kind of league wide. I think, like I said, I still think the jury's out on him. I think the Knicks, the overarching thing with RJ, the Knicks would be dumb to trade him because right now his stock is lower than it ever was. And if you really were going to kick yourself about the Donovan Mitchell thing, you're going to be mad when we get a second-round pick for him this offseason. And I think that he still has potential, and if we develop him right and develop him the right way, I think he'll be able to at least impress.
Yeah. My only thing though, I think that if you're a team and like first of all, I don't think the Knicks are going to trade RJ. I don't think they make a big trade this summer.
Doesn't
I think
make sense anymore.
it doesn't. I think that they play it out with what they've got. They got to make decisions with Obi, IQ, Josh Hart, which I'm hoping at least with IQ and Josh Hart they bring back. I think especially if they want to move on from Randall, I think Obi's proven that he can play in the playoffs. He's gotten better every year. I'm not saying give him a crazy contract, but if it makes sense, I would be comfortable bringing him back. I think that kind of through midway next season is when they'd be able to make a trade.
I think I think you have to push the RJ conversation until next year.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get a definitive answer either way. There's not enough time left. It's at this point, it's just survival. Let's just hope he plays well next game and the game after.
I do think, though, with that being said, I feel like just based on those 2 playoff games that he had and his age, like I think a team would – I still think he has value, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like, I think
I
a
agree.
team could talk themselves into and be like, okay, we've seen him do this against the best defense in the league on the biggest stage with all this criticism coming his way. Like, he was able to overcome it and have 2 amazing games.
That's true.
But the frustrating thing with him is like he's like the king of like the $1 million move with the 10-cent finish. Like he makes these great moves to the basket, and then he'll just like blow the layup, or he'll just try and take a floater, and he just doesn't seem to have that touchdown yet.
The most smoked layups I've ever
And
seen.
it's like, bro, it's like, dude, like these moves are so nice that it's like he just doesn't finish them, and it's so frustrating to watch. And that's like just kind of been like what it has been with RJ. It's like he's got so much potential and he has these great moments, but he has not been able to put it all together, which is what makes it frustrating. But at the same time, you can look to his age and be like, well, we've seen enough to be like, we think he can become that guy.
Yeah,
you know?
and I do think like you like, and to kind of cap up the whole RJ thing, I think that I don't think he had much trust with the Knicks, to be honest with you. I don't know if you like what you guys know like behind the Knicks, but like Johnny Bryant, who's like the Knicks associate head coach, is like childhood friends with Donovan Mitchell. Like that move was like Donovan Mitchell was a Knick, you know what I mean? And like all offseason, yes, RJ was in his bag, got paid and did everything, but he also was working out with like Drew Hanlon and doing his own thing and like kind of on his own kind of thing. And I think that kind of rift, I don't want to say Drew Hanlon like made him miss all these layups, but some of these things
Might be time to call Chris Brickley.
but I think that some of these things, it was Drew Hanlon, right? Or
Yeah, Drew Hanlon's his trader.
yes, but regardless, I still think that there was definitely like some kind of like they weren't on the same page. Him and the organization definitely were not on the same page, and I think that you felt that with his frustration, with his role and everything like that. So I think that a season where the Knicks can kind of look at what they have, appreciate what they have, and try to grow on it will be big for RJ, his development, and just the Knicks in general.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to go back and how you mentioned with Obi going into the offseason. Obi, Quick, and Hart are obviously people that you want to bring back, but out of the 3 of them, I would be so scared of like a team overpaying for Obi Toppin because they want
he's restricted too. So wait, no, he's not restricted.
No,
What?
I don't think
Isn't
he is
he
restricted.
I don't think he's restricted.
He's not a free agent. I know that.
I think he's just extension eligible.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I bugged that. Cause he's in like the end of like this, like if they don't
end
do
of the
anything,
rookie
he'll be
deal.
a Knick next year. Like they don't have to pay him. But
Oh, they don't have to pay him.
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that he was like automatically a free agent.
no, but they can't. I mean, for the most part, teams make a decision at this point with the player,
Okay.
right?
Because I was saying if he was just a straight up free agent, I would be worried about a team basically saying like, look, we've seen what you've done in the playoffs. We know what you can be if you have the minutes available to you. We want you to come in and be an actual starter for us and prove that you're an actual player in this league.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's not going to be able to be a pure free agent, then that's kind of off the table for him.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you look it up?
Yeah, it's 2024. He would be a restricted free agent. So
Okay.
Like
so
that-
they don't have to.
So
make a
that's
decision.
next
they don't
year.
have to make a decision, but I think that they're going to talk about the extension. But honestly, I don't think Obi Toppin's like love him. Like Obi's like my boy, but
I
I
think
don't.
he becomes almost a trade piece at some point.
Yes,
Yeah,
I agree.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I love
They got a lot of
love
guys to
Obi.
pay.
I love the energy that Obi and IQ have
No,
off the court too. Like they're just like good vibes.
a million percent. And I think that the thing that I think hurts me to say, but I think that Hart's the one that gets moved off on. And I think that because
Oh, you think? I don't see how they could possibly move off him. He's a
I-
Tibbs guy too. Like Tibbs loves him.
I agree, but at the same time, like Quentin Grimes, like you can see
No.
Quentin Grimes being that in 2 years.
No.
No,
I can't.
I disagree with that. I think that Quentin Grimes could be that type of that caliber of 3-and-D wing. Maybe he's not as big as Josh Hart is, but I think that definitely they could fill similar roles where it becomes redundant to have both of them on the same team.
I just think the Josh Hart thing just makes too much sense at this point. Like he's a fan favorite. Tibbs loves him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Villanova guy. He's boys with Brunson, who they have locked up for years to come. Probably will be a Nick. He's going to be the next point guard for quite a while.
But that's
And he
the
probably
thing,
won't cost a
though.
lot
It's-
either.
And
No,
it's
Jo-
on the RJ
he might.
discussion.
No, Josh Hart will. Someone's going
Someone's
to
going to give him 4
Josh
for
Hart.
80 or something
They've
like
made
that.
a lot
Really?
of they've made a lot of financial commitments. You know, this last year or
Yeah.
so. You know, there's going to be guys that you want to keep go. Just
They'll be able to. They'll be like guys like Fournier. Like he's gonna be an expiring, so like they'll be able to dump him. They're gonna have to give something up. Like they're gonna have to make use of some of these picks. I think.
Which is why I think like
But
Obi
they
Toppin
can make it work where they can make it work. But yeah, it's they have made great decisions in the past year, but shit, man, they made some horrible acquisitions after that first playoff run where they just signed all these guys that were just they were just mid. Like they just weren't below mid. Honestly, they were just not good.
I can't believe that you really think he's gonna get 4x80?
They were saying that's what they
Quickly?
think. No,
No, Hart.
they were saying that they think Reeves is gonna get that, and I think Josh Hart's better than Austin Reeves.
I don't think. Didn't
The
you just
different
say
roles,
that?
though.
Yeah, completely different roles.
4
Didn't you
for
just say
60?
that? How much has Josh Hart scored this this postseason so far? 20 total points.
What he no, that was Emmanuel Quickly.
Oh, that was quickly. Okay,
But Zach Lowe was saying that he thinks Quickly's gonna get something like that too. No,
that's ridiculous.
everything
I can
that
see that.
everything that Josh Hart does, like it's not. You don't see it on this score, whatever you want
I
to
get
call
that,
it,
but
on this
that's
stat
not.
line.
I just don't think that's worth $80 million.
You also got to realize the NBA cap's going up substantially over the next couple of years.
It is.
Right.
Like,
I get that, but-
the cap is going to be like just bigger. So like deals like
RJ's
it's
deal
20
isn't gonna seem as big
it's
as
not,
it is.
Yeah, it's not going to seem like right now. Like you think of $20 million a year, you're like, oh my god, that's like a max deal.
Yeah.
like it's not because like
I know-
The
no, I
stars
know-
are
I
gonna
know it's
start
not a
getting
max deal,
60,
but
70
the
annually,
idea,
which is crazy.
the idea,
Brunson's gonna be an absolute steal.
yeah.
especially when you consider like guys like Damian Lillard in 2 years are going to be
60,
making
yeah.
$63 million a year.
Yeah, but that's like it's just ridiculous. The fact that you're gonna give a role player, a bench player, $80 million is just
I think Josh
insane.
Hart's
it-
proven he's the third best player on the Knicks.
We did it with that's crazy. That's insane.
He's the third best. Who's better than him?
RJ.
He's been outplaying RJ since he's been here.
Okay. Yeah, fine.
Yes, he has.
I'm telling you, if you were
I think RJ would be the fourth, but right now, like the importance that Josh Hart has on this team, like he's been their second best player, like by far, next to Brunson, in 2 of their 3 wins.
okay, on the team that is going out to play tomorrow, yes, I'll give you credit.
Yeah.
He's probably the third.
No, I
most
think
important
RJ
player.
in
But
the
on
long
the
term,
team-
I'd rather have
on the team
RJ.
that they negotiate in spreadsheets and the front office negotiates this offseason, it's RJ's the third biggest asset on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that you can argue that it's second because they're probably trying to move off Randall.
I just think it would be crazy if they don't bring back Hart.
I do agree, but I do think the price tag will be high. It's just yeah. But
Just like it would just be like it's just like he just seems to be one of those guys. Like you saw what he did with his hair in the playoffs. Like he's just a new. He said he
Yeah,
wants
that
to.
was tough.
He said he wants to come back and be a Knick too. Like he loves it here, and he fits the energy. He fits everything about like what this Knicks team wants to be. Everything about the New York
That's true.
culture, like Tibbs and it just makes too
I
much
would
sense.
love to see him back, but like also like I don't want to catch myself like watching like banking on him and needing him and overpaying for him.
I would be very disappointed. If
And I
he's
wouldn't
not
be
Knick next year.
I wouldn't be that sad because I really do feel like Quentin Grimes is like in that cut from the same cloth. Not necessarily the same player, but
I don't know. All right, do you want to touch on this? I have one more thing, and then I
No,
figure
you
we
go.
can wrap it up. I just wanted to do a would you rather for RJ Barrett.
oh god.
So part of most of these names, I saw this on a TikTok last night, and I was kind of like appalled. I was like, this is crazy what these guys are picking over RJ. So I wanted to run it by you guys. So the
We
first
already know
player
Nick's answers.
is RJ or Rui Hachimura.
Is that even a question?
They both picked Rui. Recency bias, I guess. I'm going RJ.
Did they watch last night's game? Like, I mean, it was TikTok last night. But that, like, yeah, no, I'm picking RJ every single time.
Look at the kid's sweatshirt.
Yeah.
No, but still, like, I don't think Rui does not give you anything as like a guy who could possibly lead a second unit. Like, I think you can definitely hand the keys to a second unit to RJ Barrett, or like as we see, help out. I mean, help out while your best player's on the bench. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
No, I mean RJ.
I'm going to RJ, but not as big a blowout as he's making it seem.
All right. The next guy is Cam Johnson.
I'll start RJ.
It's a lot closer, but RJ.
I'm going RJ as well.
It's close. It's really close, and
Cam Johnson's really good.
it's depending on what you want your team to be. Because like,
Agree.
if you were to tell me, and I'm gonna catch some heat because I know I'm an RJ lover. If pause,
Hey, yo.
if I wanted a 3-and-D, like a player to know his role and not have this weird like passive aggressive, like what am I doing here? What's my role on this team? Can I have the ball and dribble, please? Kind of thing, like RJ was all season. I would say give me Cam Johnson because Cam Johnson can definitely fill that role, knows where he fits in and does that, and will do just basically what he needs. But still, RJ is ceiling over Cam Johnson's.
I agree. Next player, Tyler Harrow, who has been probably the player he's been compared to the most. Same draft, similar position. I don't think they're similar playing style at all, but
Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I'll go Tyler Hero just because I feel like he's already coming to the player that he is.
He's proved it.
Yeah, and he can get better. Just over time, I think RJ's still figuring it out, and that's why.
yeah, I think
I'll
for like
probably go
what
with him.
he is like right now, I would say Tyler Harrow. But at the same time, I feel like RJ has a higher ceiling than Tyler Harrow.
I agree, but I also think that Tyler Hero is also the safer bet. So I'm obviously, you saw my hoodie. I'm going to go with RJ, but I do think Tyler Hero, like you can see a role where he's like still in the NBA, like at Kevin Love's age, just like catching threes and catching the ball and just shooting threes.
Yeah.
And I think that like RJ gets an edge for me, one because like even though he's not athletic, I'm not going to say he's like super athletic because he's not, but he's definitely more athletic than Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I think it's like RJ's a better defender. Tyler is a much better shooter.
And he's also Hero. I think it's important to note he's performed on a big stage.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
Tyler Harrow's really
RJ,
good,
we've
man.
yet to see that for more than 2 games.
That's 2 ball games.
Tyler Hero's been to a finals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
All
and
right.
produced. Yeah,
I got two more guys.
They kept the Knicks out of that bubble, by the
All
way.
right, so the next guy is Dylan Brooks.
Get the hell out.
Very
RJ.
similar to RJ's
RJ.
stat lines. If you're taking his shooting splits,
watch your
everything,
mouth.
defense, it's more similar than you'd expect. They're kind of they're not efficient shooters. They're solid defenders, and they're kind of just like
All right, you
right
can stop
now.
talking.
Like,
It's RJ.
If Dylan Brooks wasn't such an ass, I think I'd go with him. But I'm gonna go with
100%.
RJ.
I'm going RJ too, but they're closer than you'd expect.
No,
Me
it's not.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
from
don't
like
think it is
outside
either.
of RJ's last 2 playoff games where he's taken the leap that we've expected from him, it's similar.
Have you seen the shots that Dylan Brooks takes?
Yeah, he is a chucker, but RJ's been kind of a chucker also.
He's a chucker, and he's supposed to be known as a pretty good defensive wing. And
I picked RJ. I'm just saying.
Well,
I think it's a
yeah,
funny.
but the
I think
way-
it's a funny,
the way you
interesting.
approached
comment.
the
'cause it
question, the
bothered
way
me.
you brought it up, made it seem like, oh well, like it's such a close option, and it's not. It's not.
It kind of is.
No, it's
It's
not.
closer
than they think,
It's
bro.
if
It's
you
really
eliminate
not.
recency bias, I think it's a
Outside
lot
of the
closer than you
recency
people
bias.
think.
Listen,
I mean,
all-
Dylan Brooks plays 40 minutes on a team that was a 2 seed in the West. Like, he's not a bum. He's not great, but he's not a bum.
Yes, but also if you are taking those type of shots, and you have John Morant, who is an MVP caliber player, love Brunson, Randall's cool. They're not MVP caliber players. Like John Morant is you can see John Morant winning an MVP.
Give me
within the
Brunson
next 5
over
years.
Ja.
Okay, that's insane.
Give me Brunson.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
if you're taking shots over that player and stealing shots from him, like you just don't know what you're doing, dude. Like you're
All
just,
right. So you're RJ.
of course.
All right,
Who
last
you
guy.
got?
I mean, yeah.
Who you got?
Last guy is DeAndre Hunter.
I think for the same reason with Tyler Hero, I think Hunter just knows who he is already and knows his role, and I think he's able to fit in more situations. But as we've mentioned before, RJ probably has the higher ceiling, so it kind of depends on what you want your team to be.
I'll be honest for the podcast. if you gave me DeAndre Hunter in like a lineup, I couldn't pick him out. So I'm gonna omit myself.
I'm taking
on this
RJ
one.
Barrett. I don't even like DeAndre Hunter's nice. He's a nice player. He's a great defender, but I'm taking RJ.
Yeah, there was a time where I thought like DeAndre Hunter could have been like a Mikal Bridges type of player, but like this past season's real. Unless like I said, it was just the role that he was put into, and like that's kind of he can get a change of scenery or something happens if the Hawks move on from Trae Young, even though after tonight it doesn't look like they will. Like I think that's one of those kind of players that like. He is what he is, and I think that RJ still has a little bit of room to grow.
I agree. All right. That was a good ep. Let's go Knicks. Let's go Jets. And that's it.
I know we don't talk about it, but let's go Rangers. 2-2, going back to the Prudential
let's
Center.
go Rangers. Did the Islanders win tonight?
Shout out Rick Pitino. Go St. John's.
Yep. Let's go Johnnies. Thank you guys for coming on.